Yeah, we getting it, Coach. We back, Coach. We back.
We back.
Let's give him a minute. Give him a minute. It's funny. They already in here making comments on the screen. We know the Rattlers are in the building. The Rattlers are already here.
Well, they here.
I think old Campbell stacking the deck on us. He's stacking the deck on us, man.
He
got all his Rattlers in here.
He been texting all his fans.
Actually, I did. That's the thing about it. Rattlers, we just everywhere. I didn't even get a chance to let the alumni pages even know that we were doing the show because I've been out. Like I said, right when you text me, I was driving. So, hey man, Rattlers show up, man. We show up and show out.
Yeah, we're gonna give him a few more seconds. Hey, Coach, you gotta get. Hey, don't let me forget to ask Mr. Campbell when we get started, give us that Rattler report. You know what I mean? Because we gotta have that Rattler report. They done had a real tumultuous offseason. And it's time to play football with all that things considered. I definitely want to hear what's the state of the Rattlers right now. I don't know that any team coming off a championship has had a more topsy-turvy kind of experience.
Oh, yeah. You know, that's the Rattler way.
All right. I'd like to thank everybody for coming in this evening. This is HBCU Coach's Corner, and it's hosted by none other than the SWAC legend himself, Johnnie Cole. But before we get started, like we always do, I just want to know, Coach, how you doing?
Man, doing good, Coach. Doing very, very well, man. Just anxious to get back, man, and had a great summer and, you know, done some visiting and jumping off of bridges in Martha's Vineyard and, you know, and about to start back school teaching the youngers and, you know, of course, unfortunate enough on the bad note that everybody heard, you know, about Jacoby Jones, who was really, really dear to my heart, you know, and matter of fact, I'll be headed down that way to New Orleans to his funeral. Besides that, Coach, man, I'm fired up and ready to go.
Hey, Coach, I know you were heartbroken about that situation with Jacoby Jones. You let us know very early, even before it hit the news. You reached out to us and let us know what had happened, man. I know you were devastated because of that. My condolences to you and Kobe Jones' family, man. It was truly a tragic situation, and I know how much he meant to you as a player and a friend. And so,
yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Being close to his mom and the family, you know, they gave me a call about it, and I was kind of shocked and surprised and you know, devastated, really. You know, kids so young, you know, but there's always some good to it, you know, and you know, maybe we'll talk about that a little later in the show.
All right. Hey, well, I guess next up we got to let the Rattler himself. They was doing more than striking and striking again this offseason. None other than himself, Mr. Campbell, the Bishop, the detective.
Hey man, listen, we're here for another season. You know, people didn't think we were gonna make it, but we made it and people enjoyed it. So man, I'm excited to be just a person on the ground supporting Coach Cole and you, Rocky, and I think give another great perspective for all the people for the new year, man. We do it a little bit different on this show. We're not gonna cause too much trouble, but we will cause a ruckus. So there is a difference, okay? So absolutely.
Absolutely. And I have to ask you this, Mr. Campbell, before we go any further. Did you get a chance to enjoy that championship at all?
Hey man, I heard, and I'm gonna say this because I'm gonna call his name because I have so much respect. I heard BJ Jones on their show, and you know they do a great show, and saying that the Rattlers get a chance. Man, Rattlers are unbothered, bro. Listen, there's a reason why we say brag different. We don't care none about that. We are HBCU national champions. Guess what? Nobody else can say that but us. So yeah, man, I am super excited about that. I'm super about it because every time we talk about our football team, guess what people say? Celebration Bowl champion, HBCU national champion. So no matter what happened after that, put those titles before our name. So man, absolutely. And you know what that also does is allow us to go into the new season saying we are defending champions. Nobody else can say that either.
Wow. I think you wrote that down on a piece of paper.
Man, I told you I come prepared, Coach.
And Coach, let's just talk about without the championship, TSU also had a pretty tumultuous offseason as well.
Well,
they lost their what I would consider a star quarterback to a rival. They brought in what I would consider an inexperienced head coach to lead the program. There was some exodus from the program, some very good, notable players. You know, what's the feeling around TSU and Third Ward?
Well, you know, they're optimistic. You know, when you got a perennial program and you don't do things the right way, you know, we talked about on the show when it was going on about, you know, mid-season, they should have been looking for a coach, you know, and it took them 3 months. And not only did you bring a guy in here, and this is not nothing towards him personally, but you bring him in here, you know, a month later where you really don't get to recruit and he's not that experienced, you can't expect a whole lot. You know what I mean? The numbers don't add up. And when you have a program like that, and I'll say it, it's my school, you know, a perennial losing program, you got to bring somebody who has turned programs around, I think, you know, but hey, what does I think? I'm on the sideline. But yeah, it was a very, a lot of bad things was going on, a lot of bad decisions was going on with the decision of who's going to be our head coach. And, you know, now we got Chris Dishman, and that's where our support would go. We would go behind Coach Dishman.
All right, Coach. Hey, that's a pretty optimistic perspective considering what has been going on at TSU. Dishman was kind of the, you know, let's go back a little bit. You know, Fred McNair was the coach in waiting for the most part. And I thought it was pretty much a done deal. You know, and all of a sudden he's no longer the coach. Coach McNair finds himself now as the tight ends coach at Southern, right? He ended up, because he was going to take the TSU job, he ended up losing the job at Alcorn. And it's just so much going on. Has there, you know, and I'll ask both of you guys as SWAC historians and members of the SWAC, lifetime members of the SWAC, has there ever been a football offseason quite like this when you think of everything that occurred in its totality in the SWAC?
Let's make one thing clear, and Mr. Campbell, you can piggyback off of me. No, it hasn't been. And, you know, it's always been SWAC coaches coming in behind SWAC guys. You know, the only schools that don't have that is, quote unquote, your perennial loser schools. At the time, it was Prairie View who kept going outside. Texas Southern kept going outside. But when you look at, of course, we all know that Eddie Robinson stayed a long time. Maybe he stayed it too longer, but right behind him was a Grambling Knight. You know, same thing with Jackson State. You know, you had Harry Carson, and you know, right behind him, you had another Jackson State great. So those schools in you know, in Mississippi, Alcorn and Valley, you know, those guys stay within the conference, and I think that's one reason why, you know, they got solid programs today. You know, Southern University is kind of like the same way until they got away and went outside. And got my guy who's a running back coach, get my thinking cap on, but he didn't do very well at all, you know. So it's not like that. It hasn't been like that, but lately, that's some of the things that's been happening in our conference as far as choosing coaches.
Hey, go ahead, Mr. Campbell. What is your? Do you remember offseason quite like this?
No, not at all. Because, and Coach hit it. I mean, if anybody knows, the SWAC was known for coaching stability. The Giants, and you could know you knew who Southern's coach was going to be, you knew who Alcorn's coach was going to be, you knew who Mississippi Valley's coach, Jackson State, on and on and on. You knew who these people were, and even if they had a down season, they knew how to bounce back for a new season. Now what we have is, because we have more schools, and now the pressure is risen up because everybody wants a quick fix. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think I love that Deion Sanders came to the conference, but I also think Deion Sanders gave that magic quick fix that everybody thought, hey, let's just get a guy like that doesn't have any experience. He just got a lot of rah-rah, and then it'll work for our program. And, Coach, as you know, that you got to have coaches that know how to coach. You got to have coaches that know the program. You got to have coaches that know their footprint of recruiter, because the way Jack State recruit is totally different than how Southern recruit. The way Alcorn recruit is totally different how FAMU recruit, because of the schools and how, depending on where they're located and things like that. So now it's amazing because we got 6, 7 new first time coaches somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And everything, and so that level of uncertainty for teams, and we're talking about name teams. You talk about Southern, a name team. You talk about Grambling, a name team. You talk about FAMU, a name team. Those historic programs that you would never think that, hey, we got a coach that, again, people know Mickey Jones, but he didn't come from somewhere else and say, okay, you know, I've laid my hat, I've won a championship at a lower level. Terrence Graves has been, again, respect to Coach Graves, he's been like Grambling, he's been there. But Terrence Graves has never laid his hat long enough to say, I own a program, I'm a champion. Coach Cozy, hey, great person, but hey, he's a young guy. He's coming in. He got blessed by the football team, but we don't know. We don't know. I believe in Coach Cozy, but because of that, that's where you got it wide open.
Yeah. Well.
And you actually stole my thunder. The final point I was going to make about all the turmoil about the Deion Sanders coming in, creating a level of pressure that exists in the conference now. That did it exist prior to Deion? And you mentioned that. Has the pressure ratcheted up, or the impatience of the fans, or the combination of the two? The impatience of the fans creates the pressure.
Well, without it, I think you know, social media has a lot to do with it too. You know, we're more visual. All these programs are more visual. You know, and thanks part to Deion as well. You know, and the thing that he came in and won so fast and so quick. Yeah, I think the pressure is there. You know, we all know that now that, you know, the athletic directors and the fans, you know, they have that microwave attitude. You know, I want it hot right now. You know, so it has. But you know, one thing about, you know, taking on a head coaching job, man, your job is to win, graduate kids and win in that order. Don't get it twisted. You know, so you know, I'm looking for an exciting year because we do have a lot of new faces in our conference. But usually Black college, just like any other conference, and y'all both can attest that they hire within. They hire a guy from have that Black college experience. And then, you know, if you really want to look at it, being a Black college coach myself, you know, when they do that and go outside, it takes jobs away from Black college graduates who decide to go to these HBCUs, who decide to want to be a coach and be able to come back either to their alma mater or coach in the conference.
All right, Coach. You bring up a great point. And this season, though it's been a lot of turmoil for a lot of different schools, a lot of different programs, been some talent acquisition, some movement, some player movement. It does not lack for excitement and energy when you look at the social media, you look at the schools. You know, we had an opportunity to go out to Montgomery, Alabama, and we were at the Alabama A&M spring game. We saw the excitement and intensity that existed in that sport. So, for that event, there's no lack of excitement and interest. And overall, before we move on to our predictions, what do you guys think about that? The excitement and intensity that exists anticipating this 2004 season.
Go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Well, here's the thing. Usually when you come into the season SWAC, you usually know who is going to be one of the top two teams. Back in the day, you could just pick Jackson State and Grambling, just put them right there, 1-2, automatic. And everybody else fell in. Or if you saw where you had Valley that had a super team, say, you know what, this is their year, or Alcorn, this is their year, or Houston Markham with Alabama State when they made their great run, Pete Richardson. But now you got to understand something. We got in the East 3 fan bases, 3 coaches, and 3 athletic directors that believe they can go to the Celebration Bowl. That's Jackson State, that's Florida A&M, and that's Alabama State. That has never happened to this point without, and I'm sitting back here thinking about that you've got that where I'm talking about, because again, you usually would know, hey, Grambling's a little bit better. If we can catch them, we beat it. Hey, Jack State is better if we catch them. Again, of course, they didn't lose. Alabama State was a little bit better. Southern, when they were on their streak, hell, let's even talk about Alcorn. You know what I'm saying? Just a few years ago, you know what I mean? Winning those and going to Celebration Bowls and things like that. They were the class of the conference. Now, what we look like, what we possibly will have this season is potential parity, which is amazing.
Yeah, well, and I think that's real good too. You make a good point, and it is one thing about the conference now since Deion has left, and and Coach Simmons left from Florida A&M, and then now you have all these new guys coming in. You know, that does add some excitement. You know, it's like the trophy is not handed over. You know, you know, you really don't know. And not only that, you know, you got a bunch of coaches coaching for the first time or on their second year ever coaching, being a head coach. So that's exciting. I think that's good for the fan base.
Yeah. And Coach, coming in last year, let me just revisit last year for a second. I think all three of us had FAMU as the favorite, and if Coach Simmons just kept the car in the middle of the street, FAMU's going to win the championship. That's what I felt like going into last year. I think all of pretty much everybody other than the Jackson State faithful pretty much knew what was going to happen in the SWAC last year. And, of course, Willie Simmons and the Rattlers brought home the trophy. This year is a completely new year. And I want to ask you this here, Coach Cole. In 2010, when you won the championship of the SWAC, was it wide open or were there some obvious favorites that you had to overcome?
Now, you know, when I took over Texas Southern, they were 4-40. They had only won 4 games in 4 years. And so my first year, you know, I struggled a little bit and went 4-7, you know, but I played some close games. Then the next year, I really kind of snuck on everybody. You know, I finished number 2, but I finished 5-2 and only lost to Prairie View and Grambling, who was the champions before I came into the conference. So yeah, you know, it was you know, I kind of walked up on everybody. We definitely wasn't the favorite. We definitely weren't even. We was like more or less in the middle of the pack, you know. But we had made some big strides, and you know, once again, it was at that time it was Grambling, Jackson State, because they had a hell of a quarterback, the white kid interior, and you know, of course, Prairie View was just coming off the championship in 2009. You know, so and then, you know, matter of fact, they beat us the first game, but we was able to put everything together and then wipe the table after that. So yeah, it was a surprise when I kind of jumped up. And you might get the same thing. You know, we can't sleep on Alcorn. You know, Coach said Thomas that we brought on the show, man. You know, I like him. I like his energy. I like his enthusiasm, and he also have been in the conference as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Coach, I wanted to get that perspective before we went to y'all ready to go to the predictions, Coach?
We ready to go, Coach. We ready to go.
All right. I'll unveil my predictions first, then Coach, and then the Rattler himself will kind of explain his predictions. So first up, let me go ahead and go with mine. Okay. We'll come back to that. All right. We'll do the SWAC.
You want to do MEAC first?
Y'all want to go ahead and go over the MEAC first?
Let's get the MEAC out the way.
Okay. Okay. This is our MEAC predictions. I'm gonna pretty much explain mine first, guys. I thought Morgan State was a serious threat last year in Coach Damian Wilson's first season. I expect them to be better this year after the second year in his system. You know, a year of recruiting, that very young team, I expect them to be better. And with NCCU not having the trigger man they had before, South Carolina State with a new coach, and then literally with all that Howard lost, I see Morgan State winning it all, followed by NCCU, South Carolina State, Howard, Norfolk, and Delaware State. You go ahead, Coach.
Well, you know, I can't count Trey Oliver out. He can reload. He's already had 2 back-to-back great years. He was came down again to the last game of the year, ended up being upset and beat pretty bad by Howard. But, you know, I like coaches. I like coaches with good programs. I can't say enough about Damian Wilson over at Morgan State. I mean, you know, this is going into his second year. They played well. But I got Howard going back. You know, I like what they do over there. You know, they pound. They let the other team make mistakes. They don't make mistakes. I think they'll be solid again. Next is South Carolina State, man. I love his energy. I love Coach Berry's energy, and when I looked at the stats last year, shoot, they were ranked pretty high. They were number 2 in offense in the MEAC, so and he's a hard-nosed defensive kind of guy, but also loves to control the game with the running game. So I like South Carolina State. Morgan State could be the sleeper. That's why I put them in number 4. They could be the sleeper. Norfolk and Delaware State, they could be 5 and 6. They won't go, neither one of them will go higher than either 5 or 6.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Well, I think I'm going to follow Coach's lead. It looks like Coach and I have almost the same stuff for Morgan and South Carolina State. But I like North Carolina Central. And one of the things that, as I started to follow North Carolina Central, I like what Trey Oliver said. He said, listen, we're not going to be deep in the portal. We're going to develop players. And that level of continuity, I think, works for that team because he gets guys out of high school, they learn the system, and they build them up. They got 4 guys that's going to be on the all-conference first team, which is great. I think that brings back a lot of talent. Like you say, look at who's going to be the trigger man to replace Darius Richards. Then you got Howard. Hey, MEAC champs. But I think, once again, there's get-back time for NCCU. And Howard lost a lot of players, lost a lot of playmakers. Still had a couple of guys on the all-conference team that I think they're going to be dependent on. And one of the ones that I was sitting up here, I was thinking about, and I believe that's Eden James. I think he's coming back, the running back. He's really electric. Casey Hawthorne, wide receiver. I think he's really electric. So, again, it always goes back to the guy with the quarterback. Morgan State is everybody's sleeper. We know the defense is going to be tough. We know they're going to be ready to rock and roll, but can they get their offense in gear? And I just looking at what they had brought in recruiting-wise, I did not see the big splash that they needed to bring in as far as being ahead of NCCU or Howard. And then Dawson Odoms and Norfolk State. I think this is make or break for Coach Odoms up there. And I think if the season starts off rough playing FAMU, and then after that, I think he's in trouble. And then Delaware State is Delaware State, and I think they bring up the rear.
All right, Coach. Hey, anybody, I just believe, like, Damian Wilson really impressed me when he was at Bowie. And I didn't think he would have the kind of year he had in his first year at Morgan State. And so I just believe that he's on the uprise. What his system works in the MEAC, and it worked really well. He was just a few points away from actually winning the whole thing, both against Howard and NCCU. So I just believe that his team and his system will prevail this year. But
if you take a hard stance on defense winning championships. He finished number 1 in defense in the conference, only giving up 21 points a game, and that's pretty good. That's lower than the national average. So I take my hat off to him, but right now, you got to show me. I'm from St. Louis. You got to show me. But I won't be surprised. Let me say that. I won't be surprised because he is an outstanding young coach.
All right, guys, y'all ready to move on to unveil my predictions? I say, these are my predictions right here, guys, and I'll just go over them. Okay, in the West, I have Alcorn winning. I really wanted, y'all know my daughter will be a senior at PV next year. I really wanted to pick PV. It's a Texas team, but I could not pick them to win it all without knowing what their quarterback situation is. I just couldn't choose them without that. If they had an established quarterback, something I think I could have picked them, but I just couldn't. And really, in these last 4 teams, Coach, I just was going through trying to figure out who's the best of the worst. You understand? When you look at Grambling, Southern, UAPB, and Texas Southern, I was just looking for the best of the worst. I really don't expect much out of Grambling or Southern, for that matter. But I believe their program's in a better situation than UAPB and Texas Southern. So that's how I think Grambling ultimately is more talented than Southern. That's how I came up with that. And then I think UAPB has a more experienced coach than TSU, and so that's how I came up with that as well. So what do you guys think about that before I move on to the next?
I see you drinking that Alabama State Georgia juice. So,
I ain't went on to the East yet. I ain't went to the East yet.
Well, yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was just a thing that popped up.
Hey, that probably hurt his feelings to see Florida A&M at number 3.
Oh, no, listen. Hey, we love that. We love sitting out there. That, absolutely. We love it. I'm sorry. But, yeah, like I say, again, Grambling is going to be interesting. I think they're going to be a dark horse. The great thing about it is they don't have to play Jack State or FAMU in a conference game. They do play Jack State in a non-conference game. That helps them. Southern and Prairie View have to play FAMU as a conference game. Alcorn has to play Jack State as a conference game. So, again, Grambling is sitting right there to take it based off the schedule.
Yeah.
So
well, and then out of that whole group, Grambling they do have the only returning quarterback. He led the conference in passing, but they weren't impressible.
Alcorn quarterback returns. Alcorn's quarterback returns as well now.
Yeah. Well, they hopefully if they keep everything down the middle of the road and don't change anything, then he would just be as strong as well. But when you get to changing and bringing in new offensive coordinators and all that kind of thing, that kind of sets you back.
I agree, Coach. And I'm going to go ahead and move to our East pick so we can get through this. We got Alabama State. I picked Alabama State. I went out and laid eyes on that team. They were a very impressive-looking bunch. And I think they have, one of the reasons why I gave them a nod, they have the most pivotal game, I think, of the season, which is October 5th in Montgomery. They have FAMU at home. And I just think that game right there will ultimately shape the outcome of the entire SWAC. And then Jackson State, I think they have FAMU at home as well. That's going to be 2 tough games, 2 tough losses that FAMU will experience. And that puts them a really good team at 3rd place in the West. And Alabama A&M, I don't expect much out of those guys. Mississippi Valley, I think, they're just a little better than Bethune, but we'll see how it turns out. Anybody have issue with any of those picks either?
Well, I like Bama State, but I just don't see FAMU at number 3. I gotta give them number 2, Coach. Even though they took a while to get the head coach, but they never stopped recruiting. And I think they just load up. Sitting in Florida, you sitting on athletes. You ain't got to go far. So, Jackson State, I would flip that. Bethune-Cookman, I think they had a hell of a recruiting year as well. I wouldn't put them down there with Valley. I would put A&M and Valley down there. But I like Alabama State. Great defense last year, just couldn't get it going, and consistently on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, we're gonna go to your picks, Coach. There you go.
Okay, I got Alcorn. I like Coach Thomas, like I said before. Really, it ain't a big difference, but they just moved Coach McNair out and moved Cedric Thomas in. I think Coach Thomas has a whole lot more energy than Fred. Sometimes you can get in a place and get stale. But Alcorn always have been right up there every year. They fell off last year, and I think with this shot of B12 with Coach Thomas, I think they'll come out and play. Prairie View is always going to be solid. Coach like to definitely run the ball, and he don't make a lot of mistakes. So guys, coaches like that, they always going to stay somewhere in the middle and always look for that big mistake or big game where they win a close one. Coach, I have to be like you, Southern, Grambling, and UAPB, and Texas Southern, man. I mean, you could put them in and I wouldn't put Texas Southern, but Southern, Grambling, you could put them in a jar, shake it up, and which one of them ever come out? Again, 2 different coaches. Southern had, of course, Grambling has Southern's head coach, Coach Dooley, who knows everything about Southern, and Coach Graves is getting an opportunity to do some things, and it's good. It's good for the West. It's going to be really, really a challenge over there, and you just really can't. If you had 10 points to put on any one of them to say this is a guarantee, you can't do that. You couldn't do that.
All right. Let me see if we have any comments in the chat about his West predictions. Coach, we have some people that's happy about you predicting Alcorn to win it all. You ready to go to the East, Coach, and explain yourself?
Go to the East. We put our eyes on Alabama State. All right. FAMU, anytime you go through some changes, and I don't know Coach Cozy that well to see, Coach Simmons left him a loaded gun. All he got to do is squeeze it. Sometimes guys got to get in there and want to put their, flavor in there. I don't know. I hadn't had any reports on him changing. If he kept things going in the middle of the road, they're going to be tough. Florida A&M is always going to be tough because of their recruiting area. They don't have to go far. Excuse me for a minute, guys. They don't have to go far. So, I got to give them their respect. You know what I'm saying? I got to give them their respect. So, Jackson State, a lot of changes down there. I don't like the fact that Coach said he's going to call his own plays now, but we'll see. I looked at his numbers at North Carolina Central. Everybody know Coach Mack was a part of that success in the coordinating. Coach T, I'll see where he at. I mean, he's on the clock. Again, I like Bethune-Cookman. I seen him against Alabama State. They've done a great job in offseason. Again, they sitting on talent after talent down there in Florida. They played Alabama State tough. Seen that game as well. Alabama A&M is trouble in the camp down there. Coach don't switch his whole defense out, had switched his offense out. Lot of movement going on down there. Lot of movement. Of course, Mississippi Valley, bunch of high school coaches down there. They're trying to do it and get in there and build players. I don't think you could do that in Valley. I think you got to go the transfer portal to get some instant help and some instant success right off the top. But we'll see. That's my group, and I'm sticking with it.
All right. Next up, Mr. Campbell.
Okay, this is mine right here?
Yes.
Okay, I saw Coach Cole at the top.
Oh, my bad. I forgot to tell him. My bad.
That's okay. I'm gonna bring some
what you really saying is mine is gonna trump yours.
No. You see that orange? You see that orange, Coach? Mr. Campbell, I got the color right. I got the name wrong. So my bad.
I had to bring some sanity to these predictions. So we're gonna start off with the West. I've got Prairie View 1, Alcorn 2, Grambling 3, Southern 4, UAPB, and Texas Southern. Now here's the thing. Let me tell you guys, and I think what people really need to understand something about with Prairie View. Prairie View, every one of their big games is at home. They've got Grambling, of course, in Dallas. They've got Southern in Prairie View. Guess who they got? FAMU comes to Prairie View. Alcorn comes to Prairie View. That schedule is set up for them to win. And that's why I really like it. And then again, I think Coach Frederick, because again, I think he's going to come down there. I think they call it the gumbo offense down there with Coach Frederick. I think he's going to do some things. I heard that they got a quarterback that's coming from Houston that's going to be really talking, they're really excited about. I know a couple of people down there that know Coach McDowell from University of Miami. They talked to him. And this is what's crazy. He doesn't have the all-conference players, but from what people are telling me, he feels this is his most talented bunch, which is saying a lot. So the next thing, here we go. You got Alcorn. I think Coach Thomas is going to do an excellent job. I think what they bring back, I think Alcorn again. I think what hurts Alcorn is, again, that conference schedule where they play those games at. Again, I think Alcorn plays Southern for their homecoming. I think that hurts them. They've got to go on the road. They got to play Prairie View. Grambling is my sleeper pick because, again, you've got a quarterback, a returning quarterback, preseason offensive conference player of the year, Miles Crawley. Quarterbacks win championships in the SWAC. Now, the question is, did Grambling do enough recruiting to put them around? And also, and everybody knows, Grambling is known for one thing. That G is known for defense. So the question is, would Grambling's defense hold up to allow when the offense scores? So that's what I'm really curious to see about that. Southern, I picked Southern fourth, and the reason why I picked, I just have not heard or seen from the recruiting side of Southern of what I really believe Southern can be. I think this is a transition time. I think Southern is, again, trying to figure out with Noah Body, could he be the quarterback for them? And, of course, we're finishing up with UAPB and Texas Southern. I think UAPB, again, is just one of those things. They'll get a win. I think they play Valley. They play Texas Southern. They get those two. And then Texas, I think they're just in transition. Even though they have, which is interesting, they have the second team all-SWAC quarterback. But they lost a lot of pieces off that team. They lost a lot of pieces off that team. So, so there you go. So now, on to the East, which I think is pretty obvious. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I really have.
Obvious, you gonna pick.
Well, but I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna be, and I've said this on out loud. I've got FAMU and Jackson State really 1 and 1A. I think that Jackson State and FAMU has recruited. I think they have a level of consistency between coaches and players that game on 10-19-24 is going to be for the SWAC championship. I really believe that. Alabama State, I have them third. I love Andrew. I think Andrew is going to be healthy, which is very important, but they lost playmakers. And another thing too, Alabama, like Prairie View, has the schedule set up for them because FAMU comes to Alabama State, and so does Jackson State. But here's the problem. FAMU or Jackson State are scared to go up there and get a W. And I think that's where the pressure comes in at, because now Alabama State has to take that death march that FAMU and Jackson State both had to do the last 3 years. And that is a lot of pressure, because that means you've got to win game in, game out. And the difference is when you had the Jackson State team, that team had been together. You had a coach that had been there. You had a quarterback been there. The FAMU team, Musa had been there for 2 years. We had a bunch of seniors. We had a bunch of playmakers, guys that had been there. So the pressure, we understood what the pressure was. So when we had those close games, those seniors stood up. Again, you saw it in the Celebration Bowl. You saw Musa make the big play. You saw Isaiah Mays make the big play. Kelvin Dean make the big play. So when you have players that have come back, that's what you have. Now, look at Jackson State. You got Jacobian Morgan. And can we talk about one of the biggest, I mean, there's a crowd report that Herb Mulligan is not on the SWAC all-conference team. That is unfathomable. That makes no sense. Even Rico Powers. So you're talking about Jackson State, 2 wide receivers, a quarterback coming back, and a running back. Hey, man, that's going to be an explosive offense. The thing that I think has been a little bit overrated, and I would like to see, and we'll see with Jackson State the first 2 games, is what is their defense going to do? Is it going to be that big blue wrecking crew, big blue Bengal wrecking crew like they've always been, or are they going to have to grow into those games? Now, the good thing about with FAMU or with Jackson State is, again, they play FAMU in the middle of the season, October, and then they play Alabama State a couple of weeks after that. So, again, it's going to allow that team to progress and learn each other. So I'm really excited about that. Now, Bethune-Cookman is my sleeper team. This is my sleeper team. I think people got to understand something, Coach. Like you said, Coach Wood is recruiting Florida boys, man, and he's getting a lot of them. And I'm telling you, I think they gave, and I think all my Jackson State people know this, they gave Jackson State hell with no offense. That defense only got better. So the question is, did Coach Woody get where his offense can give him enough? The big game for them, again, other than the FAMU game, they play Jackson State homecoming. That will tell what Bethune-Cookman sees it. If they can get that W, then they set themselves up very well to play for an East Championship against FAMU. Then, of course, Alabama A&M, get the moving trucks ready. I think I think that they do not have what they need. I think Xavier Langford comes back at quarterback, but I do not see the consistency on defense that Coach Maynard has put together. And I just honestly believe the 4 teams above them are just much more talented. And then Mississippi Valley is Mississippi Valley.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to let Scotty know I mislabeled this slide. This particular slide is, if you notice the orange, it is FAMU orange. This slide actually belongs to Mr. Campbell. So I apologize again, Mr. Campbell, for mislabeling this slide. So
no, that's okay. That's okay. Listen, the information is, I'm going to stand on, like I say, the 2 things I'm going to stand on, and I'm firm on this. Jackson State wanted FAMU and Jackson State 1 and 2. Prairie View because of their schedule, and Grambling being that sleeper team.
All right, that's great. So we're gonna kind of compare the picks here. We just gonna compare them. We're gonna look at them, see what they looks like. I think, I try to look at the commonality. I look at the bright side, the things we do agree on. I think we agree that Alcorn and Prairie View are the top 2 teams, no doubt. And we believe that the next level of team is Grambling Southern, and then UAPB and Texas Southern bring up the rear. I think, there's really not much we disagree about other than who will win it in the West.
you know, the West it's tough. It's tough. You got new coaches. You got teams that ain't really won a lot. You know, you didn't hear a whole bunch of exciting things on the off season. You know, about what was going on. You know, so it's tough. You know what I mean? It's almost like scrambled eggs. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see. I look forward to seeing and at least, guys, that the conference. You know when Dion was there, we knew by the first 4 or 5 games who gonna play in the championship. You know what I mean? And especially with Florida A&M and Jackson State opening up. You know, when one of them, whoever win, going and we knew it then. You know what I mean? Because we wasn't worried about the West side. But you know, it's interesting, and I think fan base wise, I think it'll be exciting this year.
All right, this is our East predictions compared to one another. You can see we you know, this is where we kind of agree with on the top 3 teams. What do you see, Mr. Campbell, in analyzing these picks?
Well, here's the thing. I think that you all underestimating FAMU. I think FAMU, Coach Colsey said what he was looking for every player that he left, he looked for a player that complement that style of play. We brought in 27 FBS transfers. We're going to have a talented bunch that's going to come back. I've heard the practices have been great. And here's the thing about our quarterback situation. And people say FAMU doesn't have a quarterback. But we do have a quarterback that's been in the system 4 years. And Coach Cole, you know this. If you've got a guy that knows all the plays, that gives you a tremendous advantage. So while we don't need Junior to be, again, to a level of Musa, if Junior comes in and plays between Rashawn McKay and Sunshine, hey, man, that means keep the train on the track, get first downs, let the playmakers make the plays. FAMU's going to be dangerous. I like what you guys like Alabama State. I understand why you like it. Again, I'm just a big believer that when you're going on championship marches, you got to know what that means. And I can't say anybody on Alabama State team says, hey, we know what this means. Bubba's gone, so who's the guy on defense that's going to say that? Andrew is there new. Andrew is learning these guys. Andrew's got to figure his way out. So, again, while there might be talent, but, again, and this is another thing, too, with Alabama State. Not to say it'll happen this year, but they lost to Miles Collins last year. That's what I'm talking about, intestinal fortitude of toughness. So, again, do they have that? I know Jackson State has that.
And Steve kind of freeze.
Yeah. He kind of freezed over here.
We froze him because he started talking all that Google guy. And we knew he was going to be talking about FAMU. And talking about Jackson State, Andrew Body. It's just like they were making that reason why Caitlin Clark couldn't be on the USA team. And you just seen what happened. You know, the WNBA whooped that tail. You know what I'm saying? All that chemistry and all that.
Hey, Steve, you want to finish what you were saying? You were saying something. You were trying to make the case.
Well, I'm just saying, when we're talking about teams, and I believe chemistry and experience means something when you have gone on championship runs. And what I was saying was, who's the guy on the defense that Alabama's going to be able to say? Bubba left, their leader left. Who's the guy that's going to step up in that position? Then the same thing on offense. Andrew, while talented, is new. He's learning those guys. Again, Jack State has a quarterback that's been in the system. You got Junior who's been in the system that knows these guys.
But it's a new system in Alabama State as well. You know,
which again, see, so Coach, you even proved my point more. So now we've got a new system that we don't know if it's going to work until we see if it works. We want it to work.
Well, let me say this, Mr. Campbell, and this is what I look at FAMU. What is Willie worth is what it boils down to me. And in no games that I saw, especially the big games, Willie was worth a lot. Willie meant a lot. And I just can't see you guys being in those situations, needing a play, needing to have a play. And when you guys no longer have Willie to dial it up, whether it was in the championship game or whether it was again in a big play against Alabama State, when you don't have Willie to dial it up, then what?
Well, what I'll say is Coach Henry will say, I've been with Coach Simmons since he was at Prairie View. I have coached at the Power 5 level. I know this offense. I can run this offense. I can make these plays. I mean, that's what he's going to say. Now, you might not agree with that, but that will be my answer to that. That we have an offensive coordinator that has. We have the continuity. So that's what I'm saying, which I think is important. We have the level of continuity, which is important.
Well, I wasn't real impressed with Musa last year. So this guy coming behind him might be the guy. I thought Musa gave games away. You know what I mean? But there was so much talent around him that they could overcome it. You know, and they were good. They were good, pretty good on defense. You know, because Musa turned that ball over. But it's a different ball game when you get a different flavor head coach in there and things. It's just you know, it's interesting to see how close they're gonna leave it to the vest of what they did when Simmons was there. You know what I mean? But I'll say this, Coach Campbell, it ain't nothing like a play caller. And Willie Simmons was a play caller. Everybody can't do that. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So let me address this. Because I think this is where people try to understate the impact or the impact of a player, and they forget what happened on the field with that player. You understand what I'm saying? And I believe Zoe is talking about Andrew Body, right? If I'm wrong, correct me, Zoe. Andrew Body, yes, he won 9 games in 3 years. But if you watch the games, whether it be Jackson State, Alabama A&M, Rice, whomever, when you watch the games, right, you know what Andrew Body is. If you didn't watch the games, maybe you can decide whether you can try to sum him up in wins and losses. But if you watch the games, you know that the impact that Andrew Body had on the game.
You know, I kind of buy what he says, but I think that Andrew Body is a different kid. To know the kid and to meet the kid, you understand that this kid is a winner. I think it was unfair to him. I think he played from behind all the time. I didn't think he had the structure of the teaching because I'm going to talk about 2 games. The last game of the year in 22 and the first game of the year in 23. The coaches made the same mistake. Alabama A&M, they win the game, they go represent the West. They up 17 points, and this kid drops back and scrambles out. Instead of thinking in his mind or being coach in his coaching, look, we up 17. We're in the 4th quarter. We scoring ain't important. Controlling the ball and the clock is important. Get down. He goes and try to get 1-inch line, dive, guy separates his shoulder. Of course, they don't have nobody behind him. Open up Prairie View game. The kid comes back off the injury. They up 14 points in the second half. They ran the ball 2 times. In the first half, they rushed the ball and they were averaging 10 yards a carry, Rock. 10 yards a carry. And you throw the ball 30 times and he coming off a shoulder injury.
And had the guy on their team that led the SWAC in rushing.
And one of the top rushers in the nation. And you don't give him the ball, Coach Campbell. And then you got this kid just throwing. That's not that kid's fault. Or if he was doing things that you should have took him out. If he was out there cowboying it, you should have taken him out the game. But he just didn't get coached. I feel good about the coordinator there now at Alabama State. I had a chance to talk to him during the spring game. Called up a couple of my friends. He's come from come from under Broadway, Trey Oliver. You know, all of them gave him his stamp of approval. So I looked for that kid, and you've seen him this spring. You know, he worked his ass off. Shit, he chiseled up. His personality is second to none. And the kids are rallying behind him. And you know, what you believe in, Coach, and what my man says, yeah, it's true statement too. And all this is opinionated. But I think this kid is special. I think this one is special because he can extend plays. He could change the game. He could put the team on his back if he need to. They got some great players around him now. Don't be surprised. They got some great. And what I did also like about the program, Coach, what they had about 90 players during the spring, 90 football players during the spring. That's a lot. That shows that program is on the uprising. So that's kind of was my spiel that I think they stumbled both years. They stumbled just like Florida A&M did to Jackson State. Then finally got it. Now I think Alabama State fumbled. Now Willie Simmons is gone. I think it's time for Eddie Robinson Jr. to win the championship.
Well, Coach, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of Coach Robinson. He's Class 88 brother. Watched him come in as I was a freshman at FAMU. He was a freshman at Alabama State. Saw him do great things. Here's what I will say in defense of Alabama State. Why I see why people have and I believe I'm just thinking this off the top of my head. I think they've got 5 guys on the first or second team all defense. I think they got the most out of everybody, any team. So I think that is the one thing that we do know. Coach Robinson Jr. knows how to coach defense. Yeah. So I think that does help them. I think it does help them that they got the 2 games that they need to have at home. But Coach, the only thing that I'm just going to say that just watching this conference and just when watching teams making a championship run, it just kind of concerns me that this team was put together so quick. And will they really need to understand what it takes to, again, homecoming, everybody, FAMU's coming in there because this will be the time. FAMU, hey, we got to knock FAMU off. This will be their first loss other than Jack State and somebody in the conference. That's pressure on them. We're coming in to play loose. Jackson State comes in. What if Jackson State has ran the table? And now Jackson State, big bad Jackson State coming in. We got to beat Jackson State. That's a lot of pressure. And that's why I have not seen that. Alabama State has not answered that bell yet. We'll find out this year.
Hey, caller, you're live on the air. Wait, Coach Cole. Hey, man, you got to turn your sound down in the background, bro.
You know what?
Turn your sound down in the background.
All right. Hey, caller, you live on the air.
What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Rashad.
Okay, go ahead, Rashad.
Clemens. I don't think y'all know what y'all talking about with Alabama A&M.
Oh, okay. All right, tell us what we don't know.
We pre-season. You see how much stuff we got on offense? Pre-season all SWAC. And y'all see what? Come on now. Can't sleep on the Bulldogs.
I mean, what's the colors say?
Okay. Let me ask you this: what have you seen the last 2 seasons from Cornell Maynard and the Alabama A&M Bulldogs that makes you think they're going to be any better this year than they were the previous 2 years?
And Coach, let's add this though. Let's add this, Coach. Let's add this. They got a whole new defensive staff. They don't change the defensive coordinator and the other coaches. And they always been bad on defense. Always. So what makes you gonna come out with a brand new defense?
Coach Cole.
Yeah.
No, I feel like they're gonna have a good defense too. Like they got some boys up there. Y'all saw the DB.
Okay.
He's preseason All-American too.
At Alabama A&M?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see him. That's hey, Coach, our phones are lighting up. We're gonna go to the next caller.
Yeah, I was gonna say I keep getting the green.
Hey, caller, you're live on the air with HBCU Coach's Corner.
How you doing, Coach?
Who am I speaking with?
This is Big Body, Andrew Body's father.
Big Body. What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Rick, man, good to hear from you.
I've been sitting back listening to a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I'm not one to come out and speak and say or whatever. But let's deal with this injury prone deal. Injury prone is a person that you would say You don't know when he's going to get hurt because he always hurt. My son started playing ball at 5.
Hey, Rick, can you turn the sound down in the back? Hold up, Rick. Can you turn the sound down in the back? Because we hear the echo, bro.
Can you hear me now?
You sound fine now, Rick.
Okay. We talk about injury prone. And I sat back, you know, that's my son. I know what's going on with him 24/7. So he never been injured until he got hurt the last game of the Alabama A&M game. He started the third game when he was a true freshman. And he played for real. Look at his stats. Look at his play. Now, his sophomore year, we said,
it's Sybil Wilkes with what you need to know. Today, it's Friday, July 26, 2024. Number 1, President Joe Biden addressed the nation Wednesday night for the first time since ending his re-election campaign just days earlier. In a straightforward yet contemplative speech, the president talked about uniting the country and putting what's best for the democracy over his desire for a second term. Sitting in the Oval Office, the president spoke about his desire to unite the party and his country. Number 2, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed Congress in Washington Wednesday, seeking to bolster U.S. support for Israel's war in Gaza. In a combative speech, he vowed to achieve total victory against Hamas and condemned American protesters as idiots, while the Biden administration hoped for progress in ceasefire negotiations. Netanyahu avoided discussing U.S.-led mediation efforts for a ceasefire, focusing instead on continuing the war until Hamas is defeated. House Speaker Mike Johnson facilitated Netanyahu's address, highlighting the strong Republican support. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi did not attend the speech. Number 3, in a survey conducted by the National Psoriasis Foundation, a large percentage of patients living with psoriasis responded that their diagnosis had a significant negative impact on their quality of life. Interacting effectively with your healthcare provider is essential for navigating your diagnosis, managing symptoms, and receiving the best possible care. The What You Need to Know newsletter, along with our partners at Black Health Matters, highlighted 4 tips that promote positive interactions and discussions with your healthcare team. Check it out in today's newsletter. Number 4, according to one NBC News source, Michigan has outlawed the so-called gay and trans panic defense, which allows criminal defense attorneys to use a victim's sexual orientation or gender identity as a defense argument. The bill increases protections for the LGBTQ community by protecting them from violent acts of discrimination, prejudice, and hate crimes. Number 5, Maura Cheeks, a lifelong book lover, opened Liz's Book Bar in Brooklyn, offering 4,000 literary works and a community space for book enthusiasts. Inspired by her grandmother, the shop aims to honor her legacy and encourage rediscovering books while enjoying wine or coffee. Cheers to that. Here's your daily inspiration from Yogi's Jewels. Life is a series of choices. Let's choose to be respectful of others, which is the foundation of a healthy relationship. I'm Sybil Wilkes. Be informed, be empowered.
My name is James Jr., and I won $500 on the lunch money for keeping up with the Jonas Bracket Challenge.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.